All right, we're joined by Locked On Rockets and Locked On NBA's Jackson Gatlin. Jackson, let's get right to it. Dorian Finney-Smith and Clint Capella, the Rockets reportedly signing them both via free agency. What do these moves do to bolster the Rockets' depth?
Yeah, I think there's a very compelling argument to be made here, Zach, that the Rockets are now the deepest team in the NBA when you look at the additions of Dorian Finney-Smith and Clint Capella. Let's start with DFS first. It was widely reported there was an assumption that the Rockets really wanted to find kind of a defensive wing replacement, as Dillon Brooks was one of the kind of collateral losses in that Kevin Durant trade. So you get that with Dorian Finney-Smith, a guy who is another knockdown three-point shooter, one of the premier 3-and-D wings in the NBA. So he immediately, is added to kind of a cadre of wings that the Rockets already have, right? With Amin Thompson and Jabari Smith Jr., Tari Eason, Kevin Durant also fresh in the mix. So this Rockets defense that was already one of the top defenses in the NBA last season has a chance to get even better with his addition to, again, kind of offset the loss of Dillon Brooks. And then bringing back Clint Capella, the reunion with their old big man from the James Harden era. Clint, I don't expect to have a significantly large role with this Rockets team, but he'll effectively slot into that third string center role that Jock Landale had this past season. But Clint gives the Rockets a different look at the 5 spot, right? He's an athletic, rim running, vertical spacing, lob threat kind of big, which isn't what they have in either of their other two bigs, with Steven Adams, who's kind of your more traditional bruising, rebounding force down low, and then Alperen Sengun, who's one of your, young star players, a blossoming offensive, force, be it scoring, passing. So the Rockets kind of have this three-headed, monster now at the 5 spot. And based on how successful we saw the double big lineup perform at the end of last season, and in particular in the playoffs against the Warriors, it seems like now the Rockets have a couple different bigs that they could potentially throw out there to give some different looks with that double big lineup playing alongside Alperen Sengun. But yeah, I mean, the depth of this team is no joke. They've got a very legit starting 5, a very legit bench unit 5 after them, and then even more additional depth since they were able to reportedly re-sign all the members of the Stay Ready crew with Aaron Holiday, Jayshawn Tate, and Jeff Green. So this Rockets team might honestly be one of, if not the deepest team in the NBA now, Zach.
And with these moves, with signing Kevin Durant and with signing Dorian Finney-Smith and now Clint Capella, does this make Houston a legit contender in the West?
Absolutely. And I think we could step it up one step further from, just in the West, Zach, but I think it makes them legit contenders, period, right? Obviously, to get through to the finals in the Western Conference, you're going to have to go through this, blossoming dynasty in the Oklahoma City Thunder, fresh off their first, title win. However, the Thunder looked really human at points during this title run, right? Denver pushed them to 7 games. Pacers pushed them to 7 games in the finals. And had Tyrese Halliburton been healthy, maybe the storyline around this, finals is vastly different. Maybe that game 7 looks a little different. And we're talking about an Indiana win and an OKC loss. And so I don't look at this OKC team as some juggernaut the way that the, Kevin Durant Warriors were back in the late 2010s. They're very beatable. And I commend the Rockets for looking at the team that they had this past season, 52 wins, a lot of young talent, and not just sitting on their hands, right? Continuity was a big buzzword from Rafael Stone and Ime Udoka, and that was the messaging that the Rockets were putting out there. But it turned out to just be a gigantic smokescreen because they went out there, they made the trade, they got Kevin Durant, sacrificing Jalen Green, Dillon Brooks, and the 10th overall pick in the draft. But now, with the addition of KD, they are absolutely positioned to be one of the best teams in the NBA this next season, but not just one of the best teams. And it's like, oh, you won, 50 plus regular season games, and that's cute. And you get to the playoffs and you struggle. Getting Kevin Durant directly addressed their biggest weakness, which was their inability to get buckets in crunch time situations, their inability to have a go-to closer at the end of games. Everything else is still going to be the same. In fact, everything else got a little bit better too, because you're going to be a better defense with these defensive additions. You're going to be a deeper overall team. All the young guys that are still left after the trade are all going to be 1 year older. So another year of growth and maturity for Alperen Sengun and Amin Thompson. And we've seen before how important a taste of the playoffs are for these young players. Everything's going to feel so much easier for Sengun. Everything's going to feel easier for Amin Thompson after being exposed to that 7-game series against the Warriors. They are absolutely contenders, and I think they've got a legitimate chance on paper, Zach, to dethrone the Thunder and make a trip to the NBA Finals.
All right. And with that said, what's next as we get deeper into the summer?
Honestly, I think Rafael Stone just gets to go on vacation unless Giannis Antetokounmpo demands a trade out of Milwaukee at this point. Look, the Rockets, there shouldn't be any expectation of any other moves at this point this summer. The only thing left up in the air is what may or may not happen with Cam Whitmore. As it currently stands, the Rockets were optimistic at their ability to keep Cam Whitmore in conjunction with all the other subsequent moves that they made. However, unfortunately, at this point, it seems like Cam Whitmore is maybe a little frustrated with his role or lack thereof here in Houston. And it sounds like Cam and his representation are working with the Rockets on trying to facilitate a trade to a destination that they'd be, a little bit happier to be in. And that's a tough pill to swallow because Cam is this, he's a great kid with all this upside talent and potential, but you can kind of see the writing on the wall. And with the addition of Dorian Finney-Smith, it doesn't really seem like there's going to be a ton of available minutes for Cam this upcoming season either, which was exactly the case this past year. So it's really unfortunate that that's going to be the way it seems like the cookie crumbles. But, maybe there's an off chance that the Rockets do hold on to Cam Whitmore and maybe he does, carve out a spot for himself in the rotation this next year. But it doesn't seem likely at this point.
All right. From Locked On Rockets and Locked On NBA, he is Jackson Gatlin, and he is always locked on. Jackson, thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me, Zach.